Let me just briefly introduce you. Scott DeRouche is Director of Search Marketing from Donor Advertising. And then we have Teresa Kubik, and she is Media Manager from Ignition One. And Angelina Miller, and she is the account lead for iProspect. So I will give you more introduction as we go on. Just some logistics. Each speaker will have 20 minutes, and let's have about 2 questions after each speaker, all right, in terms of keeping track of time. And at the end of the whole session, we'll open it up for other questions pertaining to all the three presentations, all right? So the first one will be Scott DeRouche. Let me introduce a little bit more about him. He has been with Donor Advertising since 2012. And has been responsible for managing organic as well as the paid search campaigns for UPS Store, Ceasefire, First Energy Solutions, Mayhem, Andretti, Autosport, and PGA Tour. Wow, our awesome work. PGA Tours. So Scott's previous role was with iProspect as the lead CEO for Chevrolet, and having spent over a decade working in search engine marketing area, e-commerce and advertising industries, Scott has got his start in digital marketing as owner of Strings by Mail, an industry-leading e-commerce business within the online musician community. So let me introduce you, Scott DeRouche.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks for coming out today too. This is great. So yeah, I'm the Director of Search Marketing at Donor Advertising. Some of our clients are JCPenney and Fiat, Meijer, Purell, UPS Store as mentioned. So we're a full service agency, so everything from television ads to print media to search marketing, you name it, we do it all there. So it's an interesting role to play there, to be in charge of search marketing for a number of these large agencies that have a lot of online activity. Prior to that, I was a small business owner and owned an e-commerce business called Strings by Mail. So I ran that business for about 5 years and learned kind of all the ins and outs of integrated marketing as a business owner. So for me, this was like internet marketing was just a crucial thing as a small business owner to expand and grow that business and make things happen. So let's see if I can figure out the technology here. All right, come on. There we go. All right, moving on. Okay, so for me, I already mentioned the small business. So the thing, it was really obvious to me. I was trying to sell things online. I was trying to sell guitar strings online and sheet music and things like that. We were a music-based business. So my goals to me were clear right off the bat. It was about trying to sell a product. There was kind of a one-to-one relationship between a search engine when somebody clicked on an ad or on an organic result, came to our website, and then hopefully bought something. Unfortunately, it's not quite so easy for all businesses to define those sorts of goals. So for me, marketing in particular, and search marketing specifically, I should say, it's all about having a goal in place right from the start and understanding what it is that your marketing is intended to do. So are you trying to sell a product online? Are you trying to drive a lead? Is it sort of a lead generation program? Or is it just general brand awareness, trying to spread the word about your product or service online? Whatever it is up front, knowing that goal and having that established is sort of primary and of importance to your marketing programs. So once you've developed those goals and understand clearly what it is that your marketing is trying to achieve and trying to establish goals for your actual marketing programs, it's important to develop KPIs or key performance indicators to understand how your marketing is performing. So for me, trying to sell products online, I was looking at things like the number of clicks that were coming to our website. What was the total volume? So were clicks up or down this month? What was the conversion rate of those clicks? Were the people that were coming, were we driving quality traffic to the website, and were those people actually converting once they arrived at the site? So developing those key performance indicators early on is sort of again, primary importance. All right. Let's see if we got this going here. Apologize for the technical stuff here. All right. So as my business grew, we started to see a lot of different traffic coming into the website. We were expanding into email marketing and doing local print advertising. We worked with some affiliate websites to drive more traffic. We did content development, display, paid search, organic search, you name it. So there were a number of channels, and they're all coming largely from the internet. So it was important to understand that what this channel diversity was, and to sort of leverage our, in my case, Google Analytics, but whatever your web analytics system is, to really leverage that to be able to measure those KPIs that I mentioned, and to understand how all the different channels are functioning kind of on their own, because they all have their own unique set of traits and characteristics. I always recommend, at least initially, being kind of channel agnostic and being willing to look at all channels uniquely to kind of understand their strengths and their weaknesses. We were initially capturing large amounts of email addresses and things like that, so we could expand on email marketing. But that had its limitations, that you could only really email people maybe once a week or maybe once a month if you had some promotional things like that. Whereas organic search, for example, was something that was 24/7. We could grow that, expand it, develop content, try to continue to grow that organic traffic. Paid search actually kind of played in nicely with that as well. It was very much, as I mentioned, always on kind of tactic, and we were able to grow and expand it and kind of pay attention to those KPIs as we grew. All right, got it here. So the challenge it continues to develop with the ever-evolving nature of search engines and search marketing. As I mentioned, organic search and paid search in particular were two of the most important channels for me as a business owner, and as well as a number of the clients that I work with now. So paying attention to Google and the way that it's constantly modifying its search engine result pages is an important factor. So here I've called out just one particular kind of mess of a search engine result page that has at the very top some paid search ads. So we're looking at text ads and site links, which are an extension of search ads below that. Site link descriptions, which are another thing that you can optimize for. And then below that's a whole series of organic returns. You've got some social happening. It's really a complex page that drives a lot of results. So being able to kind of dissect that and understand where the key points are that you can actually optimize within those search engine result pages is what your search campaigns are all about. So let me dive into organic search a bit here. Got it. Here. All right. So understanding organic search is really kind of understanding how content plays into your traffic, and the content that's on your website is largely driven by the search results that drive traffic to your website is largely driven by keywords. So understanding the traffic that is behind certain keyword searches is sort of the phase one of developing a good online search program. I often use the Google Keyword Tool within AdWords. That's sort of the most common place to start. That gives a great resource to understand how much volume there is behind any given query. So researching keywords there is a great place to start. Google Trends is another one that gives sort of historic and long-term sense to how keywords and certain queries play out, as well as the AdWords search terms report, which if you are running a paid search report or paid search campaigns, you can look to see all the sort of long tail keywords and things that also drove traffic to your website. Not just your primary keywords, but also some of the more interesting queries that you might not have thought of up front. So those are great places to mine keyword data from. I like a couple of other tools too. SEMrush is a great competitive tool. It's a great way to put in some different websites and to see the types of keywords that are driving traffic for those other websites. It's free to use up front, and then there's like a paid model too, so it's a good place to start. Ubersuggest is another one, and Keyword.io. Those are both nice keyword tools that show some alternative keywords, and they also refer to a lot of the Google autocomplete data. So if you type in a query, it starts to pull down a set of like 5 or 10 possibly keyword matches. And actually Suval is another one that does that as well. And then the URL right at the bottom of that page there is actually, if you want to do a little bit of research of your own, you can pop that in and just change I put in guitar strings, for example, and you can see what the autocomplete results are for Google. So just understanding that, you can understand how Google is probably auto-completing a lot of those keyword searches and directing traffic towards those sort of basic types of searches. It's a great place to start to understand the types of keywords that you might want to have on your website, because obviously if Google is pushing people towards those keywords, it's good content to have on your site as well to drive traffic. I mentioned Moz.com as well. They have some basic free tools which are great for organic search. There's a paid model as well, but some of their basic tools are really fantastic. All right, let's see here. Does this work here? All right. So I mentioned organic traffic. Search engine optimization is the sort of keyword industry term for optimizing your content for the organic channel. So within Google search, within organic, search engine optimization is a whole practice in and of itself to make your website appear higher within the search engines to hopefully drive more traffic to your website. So I laid out just some basics here of how to optimize your website for some of that organic traffic. So we're looking at some basic ranking factors, and I've got some acronyms here that I'll throw at you, but I've got ETC is kind of one that I use a lot. So external ranking factors is kind of this general concept of things that Google and the other primary search engines look at to determine how important your website is and what the authority of your website is online. Those primarily made up of how many backlinks you have, how many other websites are linking to your site. Google looks at that and understands the importance of the volume of websites that link to your site, but as well as the importance of those other websites. So that's one factor. But also social sharing externally, citations about your brand or your website online without necessarily having a link. And also just viral content, things that can go live and be shared a lot via blogs, via social channels, etc. Basically, the more of that stuff you have, the better it is. Expands and builds the authority of your website online. Technical factors could include things like the indexation factors and crawlability issues that you might have with your website. So if you have server issues or your website doesn't load very quickly or not at all at times, if you have broken pages like links that go to a 404 page, search engines look at a lot of this stuff as sort of a quality factor. So if you have a lot of technical issues on your website that are making it difficult for the search engines to crawl your site, then those could be negative ranking factors for your website. So you'd want to clean that stuff up, make sure your site's really usable and friendly from a human perspective, and generally the search engine bots will follow. And then lastly, the content factors, sort of that's all the on-page content, the texts and content that you've developed, images, et cetera, on your website. This is the stuff that's usable and friendly for people to view. I like to break this down into a simple acronym that's the SEO rule of thumb. So once you've done your keyword research and you've developed a keyword that you want to target towards a specific page to hopefully attract people, I like to optimize the title tag, the H1, the URL, the meta description, and the body for some of those keywords that I've researched. So once you've got those embedded in those sorts of areas, I like to do it very naturally so it's not a spammy sort of tactic, but that's sort of the on-page optimization rule that I like to refer to often. There's a few great tools that I mentioned here. Google and Bing Webmaster Tools are a couple that are fantastic. They're free. They'll tell you a bunch of issues that you might have with your website. So those are great to check out. The Moz Open Site Explorer. I should really mention Browsio.net. It's kind of one of my favorite it's a free website tool that basically shows you how a Google bot or any of the other search engine bots view your website. So you spit it in there and your URL, and it shows you, it strips out all the CSS and all the other HTML elements from your website. It just shows you kind of some of those core SEO elements. I'm mentioning also here schema.org and some additional organic real estate possibilities. So we've seen it actually just in the past week that Google's rolled out a site link search box on a website. It occupies a fairly large space within the search engine results. So that's something you can optimize your site for. It's actually just a little piece of code you can put on your site, and it's found on schema.org. Additionally, Google My Business, video results, things like that you can optimize for are great things that you can pull up on the organic results page within Google and the other search engines. All right, cool. So I mentioned this optimization concept and appearing in the organic search results. I just kind of wanted to point out the importance of these optimization factors. Because you might say, oh, I've got a website and it's fine, got a little bit of content on there, get, traffic seems fine. But this chart really kind of points out how much traffic you could be getting for a given keyword search or given query. For example, the first 3 positions in Google dominate the actual amount of people that click on the results. So here we're looking at, this was a study that Slingshot SEO did a couple of years ago, and there's a number of other similar studies that the percentages might change a little bit, but the general concept is that the top 3 positions drive about 75% of all clicks. So if you're optimizing your website for those keywords and trying to really dive into that traffic, that you really want to try to optimize for those top positions. All right. So the organic's great. It's free. Takes time, but it's a fantastic channel. But it's sometimes not the fast way to success. So unfortunately, this was actually a successful campaign that I worked on. You can see it took us a long time to drive the sort of in white there, the organic traffic. Over about a year and a half, we finally got the campaigns up to where we felt that we were driving a lot of organic traffic and things were doing well. In the meantime, that green line, we were able to keep paid search driving a real steady amount of traffic right from the start. So, paid search is fast. You can get into the search engines very quickly and continue to drive traffic that way. So, in fact, Google has a study. And this is Google's information, so take it for what it's worth. But they show that 50% of when you have an organic position, when you rank number 1, if you have a paid search ad in addition to that organic rank, so you've got essentially the top of the page, and then you've got the second organic result right underneath it, it still shows that 50% of the clicks that paid search drives are in addition to what you would have received just from having an organic result alone. And it continues on down. So if you got an organic result within positions 2 to 4, that paid search ad right at the top drives an extra 82% of traffic, and then further down, 96% of traffic if you've got an organic position that's ranked number 5 or below. So that's sort of the integrated nature of paid search and organic search. If you dominate the top of the page, there's a good chance between owning both paid and organic that you're going to get a large amount of that traffic. But then the assistive nature of paid search is really prominent once your organic results are lower on the page. All right. So as we saw with organic search, there's really a similar set of metrics going on here with paid search. So this was a study that I did on one of our clients that showed when we had our paid search ad right at the top of the page, position 1, the average click-through rate for non-brand terms for this particular client was 6.6%, which is a pretty high click-through rate for non-brand terms. But if you went down to position 2, where you're on the side of the page or the bottom of the page, or maybe even on page 2, depending on the way that particular search engine result page was structured, you're already down to below 2%, and then right on down the line from there. So again, trying to optimize your paid search results to have a high position on the page is a great way to drive more traffic. All right. In paid search, as you're improving and making driving more traffic with your paid search, there's a lot of ways that you can optimize that traffic. So one particular method is through ad extensions, and that just drives a lot more real estate. So site link extensions, for example, I mentioned on that original slide that I showed, adding those to your ads is a great way, along with the site link description. So right there you can see below your paid search ad, you've got the site link extensions as well as the descriptions right there. So I actually mapped that out in terms of pixels, and it's like 540 by 240 compared to that one at the very bottom that has no extensions. The ad's like less than half the size. So just in terms of really owning that real estate at the top of the page, extending your ads with site link extensions and descriptions, as well as call extensions, location extensions. Google now has what they call call out extensions, which is a line of text you can add that kind of adds some emphasis to your ad. Review extensions and app extensions. So it's really a kind of never-ending list of products that Google offers for their AdWords program. Bing has some similar sorts of things that you can do as well, so certainly worth looking into there as well. All right. All right, so again, on the idea of optimization, optimizing your paid search campaigns. Kind of talked about the idea of having relevance on your page with keywords and the idea of dominating real estate. And here's one further element of optimization is your quality score. So this is where kind of the relevance of your landing page, having the keywords and the content on the page that you're driving traffic to, and pairing that with your paid search ad. So if your paid search ad has similar content and Google recognizes that relevance between your paid search ad and your landing page, your quality score goes up. Quality score is the metric that they use to show the interrelated nature of those two elements. So this was a study that we performed on a client that just showed over time we were able to make a lot of improvements to on-page content. We made a lot of improvements to the actual ad copy, drove a higher click-through rate, and in return, as the quality score rose there, the red line, our CPCs dropped immensely. So we're able to drive a lot more traffic, higher quality traffic because it was more relevant, and we were able to save a lot of money in the process. And one final thing here, just wanted to mention that within search marketing, kind of talked about organic search and paid search, there's one more option. So if you're able to drive traffic to your site and a visitor comes and then leaves your site, perhaps without buying something or driving that lead that you're trying to develop, there's still one more chance to get that person back. And that's through remarketing or retargeting. Google calls it remarketing. Retargeting is kind of the industry term. Specifically within search marketing, there is what they call the RLSA program, which is using a set of cookies. So you tag your site with a certain amount, with code, and then you cookie the user essentially, and you can set your time frame up for as long as you want. I think it goes up to like 500 plus days, something like that. So you could actually show ads to that person for a fairly long period of time to get them to come back if you so desired. You can use a fairly set of broad match terms. So let's say I have a music site. I could use literally the word guitar, or I could use bands or new music or something like that, just really broad terms. And so anytime that person was searching for a music related topic, I could show them that ad on Google. Additionally, you could do site retargeting on the Google Display Network, which would essentially put some of those same ads out into a wide, there's literally millions of websites on the Google Display Network. So those little ads you see on blogs and things like that on the side, that's your option there too. So again, you would want to try to follow people that are at least interested in your particular topic or your niche. So That kind of wraps up the my presentation here. Hopefully you got some ideas out of that. Yeah, I guess if there's a theme behind it, it's that I've got relevance plus real estate equals hopefully a return on investment for your marketing program. So, thanks.
We have time for one quick question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah.
On that quality score slide, you had something BMM. What was that?
Oh yeah, so that's broad match modified or modified broad match. So I think I mentioned that because when you're optimizing for quality score within AdWords, often you'll get a set of keywords that you want to display on, but Google is giving you a really low quality score on. So it might be an important keyword and you want to display an ad on that particular query, but one way around that I found is to remove that specific keyword, especially if you're using an exact match or even a phrase match of that keyword and you've received a low quality score on it. I remove that from my program and then use a modified broad match version of it. So that's using the little plus sign right in front of the keyword. And that way it sort of opens up the potential for longer tail phrases. I found that we've been able to get much higher quality scores out of using some of those particular phrases because it's opening up to a little broader sense of, or broader amount of searches from Google. So that was one way of removing some of those low quality score keywords that were becoming expensive, but still like opening it up to the long tail. So, yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thanks.
Our next speaker is Angelina Miller, and let me introduce her a little bit. She is the account lead from iProspect. She's the Cadillac account lead for iProspect and oversees all the agency's paid and social efforts. In fact, she managed many accounts from small business to national paid search campaigns, such as for UPS Store and American Laser Skincare. And she's graduate of EMU, yay, and the CIS department major, yay. So please welcome Angelina Miller. Give me one sec.
Yeah, take your time. Let me just make sure it's gonna like go when I want it to go, okay?
Yeah.
All right, my name's Angelina. I've never spoken at this conference before, so I'm really excited to be here. I've attended, but this is my first time as a presenter. Thank you for the introduction. So I currently work for iProspect. I'm the account lead on the Cadillac brand. We're a partner agency to General Motors where we manage their paid search, natural search, and paid social. So again, I'm kind of like the team captain for the Cadillac division, which is obviously a very large account. However, when I started in search, I started on much smaller accounts. I mean, as small as possible, and kind of have worked within a range from GM to small. So all of the tips that I'm going to talk about today and best practices, they really can apply across the board. Yeah.
Just adjust the mic.
Okay. Is that okay?
Do you hear from that?
Good? Okay. So I just want to start off by saying that I really do love search. It's not that I love advertising, it's that I love search. So, and that's the primary reason why I'm in this industry, for a couple of reasons. It's valuable and it's relevant. It's very different from television or banners or radio, where I'm very aware of their value to the overall, marketing mix. But search gives the shopper or the searcher exactly what they're looking for when they're looking for it. And really, it's the only medium that's that relevant in that instant. And it's no surprise that 76% of people research products online before buying, and that number is only going to go up. I'm surprised that number is not higher. I mean, if you think of your own behavior, how often is it that you're sitting there watching TV, a commercial's on, or you're waiting for your television show to come back on, and you whip out your phone and you just start looking for totally random things until your TV show's back on, right? I mean, we search for things all the time, and we expect an instant result. and we expect it to be exactly tailored to what we're looking for, which is where search plays a role, you know. Like I said, 55% shop online using mobile or tablet. I'm surprised that number is not higher. And that's just the direction that it's going. So if you have a business, whether it's small or huge, you want to be able to be there when somebody's looking for you. Whether it's for your actual brand, somebody's searching out your brand name, or whether it's the segment or the industry that you're in, or whether it's a competitor. I mean, you could take that angle too. So like I mentioned, you know, search is different from other forms of advertising. Search is pull. TV, radio, banners, display, that's all push. You're pushing the message. There's not a lot of opportunity in search for you to push the message. Really, you're serving an ad when somebody is looking for something related to what you offer, right? So it's a great opportunity for you to provide a valuable and relevant experience, whether that's through natural or through paid. So I want to talk about just, you know, some basics for launching paid search campaigns, considering this is the Creating Search Campaigns panel. You always want to start out with a goal, an objective. I think, you know, especially working with smaller businesses, a lot of times they would come in. I worked for a small agency in Ann Arbor, and a lot of businesses would come in looking for website help and this and that, and then they'd think of paid search as kind of this like side thing that they weren't really sure about. Maybe they tried it in the past and they felt like, you know, I don't know what it really did for me. It's likely that because they weren't starting out with a goal. Like, what do I want this to do for me? It's not, search, especially paid, isn't something where you just set it up and, you know, and then there it is. It just works and everything's great. I mean, nothing's like that, right, in the whole world. So search isn't like that either. You want to have a goal and you want to have a strategy. Which includes, you know, things like landing pages, having a website that can offer the user the information that they may be looking for. You can have really great creative that matches queries all day long, but if there's nothing on the site that also speaks to what they need, you're going to see drop off, and you're going to see paid search not work for you. So all these things need to be taken into consideration before making that investment. And you would be, I think it's like sounds like a no-brainer, but I think you'd be surprised at how often people don't do that first. Even across the board, like in the corporate arena, I see it all the time. I mean, I do a lot of competitive research. I see it all the time with other auto brands. I mean, it's clear to me when it's well thought out and when it's not. Which leads into creating your campaigns, keywords, and copy. I mean, you want those to all match your objectives. And then legal approval, if that applies to you. That's important. I know in my industry that's crucial. It's not always, you know, relevant for everybody, but you just want to make sure that you're covered there. And then testing, refining, and optimizing. And I have another slide on testing too that I'll get into. So as far as like a general keyword strategy, so there's 3 different ways you can think of your keyword set. First is brand, and I liked Scott's example of when, and I'll probably mess it up, but it was like 50%, you get an additional 50% of traffic when you have paid and natural together in the first position. Is that right? Yeah. Which is why bidding on brand terms is important. I think a lot of people wonder, like, why would I do that? You know, why would I just bid on my own brand term? It's important. It's really important, especially if you're just starting out in the natural search arena and you're not quite where you want to be yet as far as rank. Bidding on your own terms, just owning that spot whenever anybody's looking for your brand, it's pretty inexpensive and it guarantees you that coverage. So I'm using Geico as an example. I don't really know why. You could put anything in there. I mean, anything. Brand is brand, right? That would be like Cadillac, Chevrolet, Geico, J.Crew, whatever. And then brand plus. So then you can start to go from brand, which is way up here, to segmenting your brand terms by group. So Geico online quote, you could have ad groups just around people looking for an online quote, right? And then serve messaging just for people who are looking to do that. And then you could do a whole nother grouping of keywords that's a brand plus, like Geico, like just auto insurance. Go after those auto insurance keywords, with your brand. And that would require its own set of organization and messaging. And then there's non-brand, right? And this is typically the most expensive. So this is when you're going after like segment terms. So if we're using insurance as an example, like free car insurance quote, car insurance companies. It's something that doesn't have a brand attached to it, but it's representative of what your service is or what you offer. Those are important, but they are expensive. Same with conquesting. So this would be where you'd bid on like State Farm, if you were Geico. You'd bid on like State Farm, Progressive, things like that, and have your ad serve when people are looking for your competitor. So I'll just walk through some of the match types quickly. I'm pretty sure that everybody here is familiar with what these are, but I just want to talk a little bit about how they can work for you. So broad, this just captures everything basically, and it's expensive. And if you're not monitoring your campaigns, this one can really run away from you. And I'll show you some really good examples of that sort of thing in just a moment. Phrase, so that's a little bit more targeted, but you can still run into some trouble where you're serving ads on things that really have nothing to do with either what you offer, or it's a little bit more left field than what you're hoping for. With the more broad variations like broad and phrase, you really just want to keep an eye on what's happening. There's search query reports that you can run within your AdWords account that can help show you what you're serving on, which is a really good indicator of if these broader match types are actually working for you or not. And then there's Exact. So Exact is my personal favorite. It's the most accurate. It tends to be the cheapest. You can control it the most. But I just want to talk about negative match, really. This one is crucial, and I think a lot of people don't think of negative matching as an important part of your keyword strategy, but it's actually really, really important. On the account that I'm working on now, on Cadillac, I'm not going to disclose a dollar figure, but having a real strong negative strategy in place can save you an exorbitant amount of money. Like I said with the search query reports, if you're looking into where your ads are actually serving, you can see how much waste there really is out there. Really good negatives to include right off the bat for pretty much anybody are negatives like free, jobs, cheap, how to, unless you offer that. But it's likely that those things are not going to lead to a sale, right? Free, cheap, how to, jobs is huge. All of those things, just implementing those as a negative right off the bat can really save you a lot of money. And then, depending on your industry, there's a whole other realm of negatives that would be important to add. Like for the auto industry, like toy. People are looking for toy cars, right? Huge. Just little stuff like that. Can you guys even see this? Yeah. Okay. I've never even watched this show, but apparently there's a show from like the 90s called Babylon 5. If anybody's I've never seen it, but if you look there at the bottom, Mercedes-Benz is actually serving ads on Babylon 5, a 90s like sci-fi show. That's not good. That's not good. It is because it's broad matching to their 5 Series. Mercedes-Benz has the 5 Series. It's broad matching to that, right? So if they were to look in their search query reports, they'd notice, hey, why am I serving on Babylon 5, you know, and spending money there? These people are clearly probably not in market for a Mercedes-Benz. Here's another one. Best toy tow truck. So all of the shopping, you know, the Google product listings in the top right, those are accurate. Those are on point. But you notice that every single other page search ad on this page is irrelevant? Every single one. Because nobody's negative matched in an appropriate way. I'm even getting ads from, you know, well, New York City, Detroit, for tow truck services. And these are just examples. You start looking online, you'll notice. Like Target, they've been on everything under the sun. But you don't want to be that person, especially if you have a small or limited budget. So just be really, really aware of where your ads are serving and make sure that it's appropriate and that your money's not just going down the drain. So I have just some best practices as it relates to retail. So this applies to everybody. It all starts with a query, right? It doesn't matter what that query is. It can be for a Cadillac sales event. It could be for lawn care services. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But whatever that query is, you want to make sure that you serve up a valuable experience from that point going forward. So Cadillac offer. You want to make sure that the messaging is speaking to offers. That person's not looking for an Escalade, they're not looking for an ATS, they're not looking for a luxury sedan, they're looking for an offer, right? So we want to make sure that the messaging is for Cadillac offers. And we had a sales event going on at this time called Summer's Best. This was from over the summer. The display URL has offers in it. The site links speak to offers. Building your own, which is a very lower funnel activity. Requesting a quote, another low funnel activity, which is close to when people are looking for offers, it generally means they're lower in the funnel, which is request a quote, locate a dealer, build your own. Things like that are also low funnel. So you want to make sure that those correlate to the query. And then send them to where they're, you know, what they're looking for. Don't send them to the homepage if they're not looking for the homepage. Don't send them to the Cadillac Escalade model overview page if they're not looking for a Cadillac Escalade. I mean, just, it's so simple, but I see this so often where it doesn't follow that same cadence. You know, so in this instance, we made sure to send them to the offers page on desktop and mobile. If they were looking for a Cadillac ATS offer, we would have deep linked to the Cadillac ATS offers. It's as simple as that. And we've actually tested otherwise, you know, sending to a deep linked offer versus just like overall offers to make sure that what we were doing made the most sense. And that's kind of a cool statistic. So 50% of consumers will visit a store within 1 day of a local search on their smartphone. So if you provide them a valuable experience, it's likely that they'll feel that overall it will be a valuable experience coming to you. I mean, it makes sense. If you go to a site and it doesn't work, sends you to the wrong page, it doesn't load on mobile, you can't find their phone number, I mean, you kind of get fed up pretty quickly, right? We're all so impatient now. Unless you're so desperate for that for that one brand, but I mean, how often? That's not as often as you would think. Again, like I mentioned, testing is so important. It's not like a set it and forget it type of scenario. You really want to define your objectives and test. I know it sounds redundant. I feel like probably everybody that's spoken today has said that, but it's because it's important. You want to define what success looks like for you. For some people, that's filling out a form on the site. For some people, that's a phone call. For some people, that's making an actual purchase if it's e-commerce. In automotive, that's something like requesting a quote or locating a dealer. You know what's important to you, and you want to make sure that that's trackable. You also, during testing phases, also be aware of anything that could affect the outcome. Seasonality, if you've been in the news recently, that'll throw everything off. Those are two big ones. News, PR, seasonality. Just make sure that to account for those things if you're running a test. and then use those results to guide future initiatives. I mean, I know on the Cadillac account where we never just are like, oh yeah, we're done, like we know what to do forever and ever. No, I mean, we continuously test. It's important. Just keep getting better, keep making those accounts stronger, more efficient, less waste. And that goes for any industry and any account. And this is just kind of a cool tool. Scott brought up a lot of the really, really cool ones, but this one is actually pretty neat too. It's with Think with Google, the customer journey to online purchase. So it really just shows how assisting channels help to build awareness. There's a drop-down box where you can choose which industry that you're interested in. There's a bunch of them. It's hard for me to see right now because I have my glasses on, but travel, auto, etc. And you can see where different types of media play a role in the purchaser's decision making. It's pretty neat. It's a pretty cool tool to play around with. And that's it. I mean, feel free to contact me. Thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions.
Do we have time for 2 questions?
So I'm curious what your working relationship is like with the ad agencies for Cadillac.
So I Prospect is an agency. We're a partner agency to GM. And we work with all the other agencies. So there's like a separate agency that handles creative, television, media, like banners, display, stuff like that. And it's a very, very tight relationship. I mean, we're with each other, 6 in-depth meetings a week. It's like this.
So you use the creative that's the springboard for the creative you use?
A lot of the messaging and the direction is, yes. The overall general direction is decided by the creative agency, what tone, look, feel, and then we take that and translate that as best we can into search. Mm-hmm.
One more question? Okay, thank you. Our last speaker is Teresa Kubitz, who is the media manager for Feed Nation One. Teresa has overseen digital campaigns for many national brands such as CenturyLink, Las Vegas Sands, Ann Taylor, Stay University, Average Budget, and so forth. So, Teresa is a very entrepreneur. I learned from her yesterday. I was talking to her. She's 10 years ago, when she was still in college, she started her own company in her own marketing agency. And on top of that, 6 years later, she graduated from EMU. But the way she did it is she handpicked her own classes and sort of like customized her own major. Never heard of that before, but she did it. So she picked the classes that helped her to go into what she wants to do, research marketing, and it's very impressive. So please welcome Teresa Kubitz.
So, I, like Angelina, have not spoken at this event before, but I have attended, and 2 years ago I was one of the poster presentations that you saw out in the lounge back there. And I'm really excited to be back here and kind of sharing some of the things that I've learned in those 2 years since that poster presentation. So while working at Ignition One, I was really lucky to be in a role where I was both auditing accounts and managing them in a full capacity. In auditing accounts, I had a chance to see a lot of really big accounts in a lot of different verticals in a short amount of time. So we use this kind of basic framework that you see here to audit these accounts and see what they're doing right. We also look more abstractly at what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. Okay. So these are some of the basic things that we look through. So I'll run through this list rather quickly, and then I'll get more into some of the abstract commonalities between really successful accounts. So first, looking at the algorithm and how the algorithm sees the assets. So if a human's having a hard time deciphering what an account looks like and what it's trying to achieve, it's likely that the algorithm is having a hard time with it as well. So the alignment is also extremely important. Is the structure aligned to the company's goals? Creative assets, the ad copy, the landing pages, the extensions, we've all talked about those things. The organization of the account, you can have an extremely complex structure, but if you don't have the resources to manage it, it's kind of irrelevant and useless. The match types, are they balanced in build and spend, which we'll talk about a little bit further in some additional slides. Reporting, frequent reporting with clearly defined KPIs. I think we've all mentioned that today. Scalability. It's really, really difficult to go in and rebuild an account once it's already built. So making sure that you're building the account for future goals in mind. Settings, are the accounts, is it set up for success? The settings are different and customized by each client. So just making sure that those are the right settings for the client. Targeting, we talk about this all the time in digital marketing, but targeting the right people at the right time on the right device. And then tracking, clean and consistent action tracking, so those KPIs that I'll talk about further. So out of all those things, more abstractly, what do successful accounts do right? And the first thing and the most important thing that I think paid search account needs to do is structure the account well to align to the company's goals. So here you can see I have a website, and this is the Venetian. It's a hotel in Las Vegas. And they have some basic product categories across the top, so accommodations, packages, and shows. So this is exactly what their paid search account actually looks like in its most simple form. So when you're building a paid search account, I think this is the best place to start, is looking at the account and the website. Once you've done that and kind of set up your product categories, you begin to pick keywords, and Scott mentioned some really effective tools for choosing those. But you need to also build those out by match types. So I've kind of detailed here a chart of what I think is an ideal balance of spend, actions, and count in that order. But most importantly here, it's extremely important to have more keywords on exact and phrase match than you do on broad match, more spend going to those keywords, and a disproportionate amount of actions going to those keywords. And two ways that you can do that are through match type integrity and match type separation. So match type integrity comes from the bidding side, and you would say, let's bid $5 for my exact match keywords, the most for your exact match keywords, but the least on your broad match keywords, and then phrase match being in between. Match type separation is kind of another, it's a little redundant, but it's a forced layer to kind of back up that bidding strategy by saying, I'm going to put my exact match keywords as negative matches on my phrase match ad groups, and phrase match keywords as negatives on my broad match ad groups. Once you have those keywords set up and your foundation laid, it's important, and again, this is something that's been stressed all day, but it's important to keep your ads and landing pages relevant. Relevancy is not only important for the user experience, but it also determines where you'll show up on the page and for how much you'll pay when a person clicks on your ad. So here I've done a search for Ann Taylor black dress, and you can see they've shown me an ad that says Ann Taylor dresses. They have site links that match. They say cocktail dresses, wear to work style, petite dresses. And then when I click on that ad, they actually take me to a landing page that not only has dresses on it, but has black dresses on it. So the more specific that you can get with this, the better you're going to perform and the more efficient you'll be. And another thing that Scott mentioned, taking up real estate. It's important that your ad takes up a lot of real estate by using all the applicable extensions that Google and Yahoo offer. So here in this ad, you can see we have a phone number, a call extension, the ad, then we have a new extension, it's called call out extensions in the middle, ratings extensions, and then site links extensions. So this is important because you take up more space on the SERP, you'll be able to push your competitors down. Also, you'll get more information in the ad. That's kind of obvious. But the most important is that Google now factors this into their quality score. So the more extensions that you're using that are relevant, the better Google is going to see your keyword level quality score. So taking this one step further and getting a little more sophisticated, successful accounts tend to segment their accounts. So we've already talked a little bit about a brand and non-brand type segment and product categories. And those should already be done at this point before all of the ads and landing pages and foundation is laid. But some additional segments that are useful are things like breaking out your good or your bad performing geos, targeting new versus returning customers. And once you have those segments defined, actually treating them differently by showing them a different ad, holding them to different goals, and spending different levels of money on them, and just using different strategies kind of entirely on these segments. And another thing that I think has been drilled into your heads today are the goals, KPIs. So it's important to have clearly defined goals. It's not enough to just say, I want to have a lot of cheap bookings. You need to say something very specific, like I would like to have 8,000 bookings under a $20 cost per booking within this quarter, or whatever time frame you're measuring it in. And once you have that main KPI defined, it's also important to define some micro KPIs. So did somebody click on the check availability button? Did they visit more than 3 pages? Did they spend more than 2 minutes on the site? And what are those KPIs? And once those are defined, it's important to prioritize them. A system that I like to use for prioritization is to weight them differently. So a booking might consist of a total of 10 actions. A booking itself is worth 5 actions. A check availability is only worth 1. They visit more than 3 pages on the site, that's worth 3. And however else, you might want to weight those differently. And once you weight those KPIs, you have to optimize to them. Contrary to popular belief, paid search accounts are not light switches that you can flip on and forget about. They need constant attention and optimization. So to figure out where you can optimize, you need to be reporting frequently. Some of these basic reporting setups are tracking your goals and budgets and how you're pacing on those. So are you set to spend your full budget within the quarter? Are you going to hit those goals? Do you need to course correct? What are the macro KPIs looking like? Time over time reports, so month over month, week over week, year over year, whatever is most relevant for your business. And then some notes, so what did you do last week that might have affected the reports from this week? Or what are you planning on doing next week that you can prepare your client for and set those expectations? Some more intermediate level reporting would be to break out some of those segments that we talked about earlier and show the performance of those separately. Landing page performance is extremely helpful to report. This can help you identify areas of the website that might be having issues with conversion rates. And if you're not looking at those landing page report performances, you might not know what's going on. Top keywords and poor performing keywords. These are obviously held to different metrics. I like to look at top keywords by volume. So what are you spending the most on? What are getting the most impressions? And what's driving the most actions? And then poor performing keywords, while keeping volume in mind, looking at low click-through rate keywords or low conversion rate keywords or high CPA keywords, and how can you improve on those? And then some more advanced reports would be the Auction Insights reports or quality score reports. These don't need to be done as frequently, but can be very insightful and can help bring an account to a more sophisticated level. And within these reports, I think it's important to analyze metrics together and not just look at a spreadsheet of data. It's important to visualize these things and to see what's going on in the account on a deeper level. So the cost and action distribution can help to uncover areas where you might be spending more than you're bringing in actions. And these 4 charts are actually, this is a screenshot from an actual QBR quarterly business review that we've presented. These are real metrics for markets. You can see them down in the bottom corner here. But you can see that by outlining all these things, it can kind of uncover some areas where you can improve and optimize. So our costs and actions distributed well. actions and cost per action. You can see on these last two that they're driving the same amount of actions, but one of them is costing $80 every time it brings in an action, while the one right next to it is bringing in actions at $59. So you might want to funnel more of your budget towards the one that's more efficient, or find ways to improve the one that's less efficient. Cost per click and average position, these are really good metrics to analyze together for competitive data. So again, looking at those last two bars, you can see they're in the same exact position at 2.8, but one's paying $15 for every click, and the other's only paying $10 for every click, which is where we see that cost per action skyrocket. Click-through rate and conversion rate together, are they proportionate? Is there a high click-through rate while there's a disproportionately low conversion rate? There might be something going on in the site. In this particular case, they actually have different markets, have different salespeople. So are the salespeople not closing as well in this market? And where can they kind of focus their attention? And once you kind of have all these things worked out and designed, one of the ways that's easiest to optimize is by testing constantly, but not too much. In this particular case, this is an actual test that was run. It's a very short, very low volume test. But all we changed was the very last line in the ad. So in the first ad, the control ad, we say get started today. And in the experiment ad, we say register by April 7th. So kind of putting in some sort of urgency. And we saw pretty drastic results in the short period. The control ad brought in 10 more leads at a much lower cost per action. And when multiplied out throughout the entire account, this can save the account a lot of money and bring in a lot more leads. So while you're doing all this testing and all this optimizing, it's really important to keep good records of all these projects. It's very tedious, and if you're lucky enough to have an intern, I recommend this for them. But it can help in multiple ways. So first, it helps to productize your work. If you're reporting to a client or even for yourself, you can say we did 6 ad copy tests, 4 optimizations, 2 expansions, and 3 landing page tests. You can kind of quantify those things that you're working on in the account. And then later, say a year from now, you're like, why did that conversion rate spike in August? You can go back to your records and say, oh, well, these are the projects that we did. Maybe we can replicate that. So last but not least, successful accounts tend to integrate search with other channels. So what is display doing that might be affecting your paid search numbers? Or what can SEO pick up that paid search might not want to? Or what's going on in the social world? Integrating all these things and having open communication between agencies or people that are doing the work, or if you yourself are doing the work, it's important to kind of keep in mind that this is an entire ecosystem and they all kind of interplay, and forgetting that can definitely negatively affect an account. So with that, I know I've crammed a lot into a short period of time, but does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Now, you talked about the rating on the websites,
Mm-hmm.
and, how it's important. But what about if we have a new business or we having a bad business that we want to improve it? How we can use those ratings to make this business look out or stand out better? Because taking those off of actually means that this business is actually not good enough to have those ratings.
Right. So the ratings extensions are somewhat new, but they're actually pulled from Google consumer surveys. So they really only pull those for sizable accounts. So in that case, that might not be the best extension for a new client or a new company. But what would be good in its place is maybe a social extension. So that would say we have 1,000 Google Plus followers. So before you use that extension, you would kind of amp up that part of your business and then use that to kind of echo that effort. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for
Yes.
Lisa?
What's the size and time length or period, or maybe what would be distinct?
So it depends on the test and it depends on the volume. Where I work, we actually use a statistical analysis to measure significance. So that's really important. You can look at a click-through rate, and it might be a 25% click-through rate, but it's only 1 click and 4 impressions. So, kind of irrelevant. So making sure you're capturing enough volume to make the test worth it. Any other questions?
I would like to open this up to any questions for anyone of our panel. Does anybody have any questions for them? Go ahead.
I had a question about the extensions, how much more it adds to the cost versus included in the marketing for the cost for anybody.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and that's something that we would test and develop a sort of testing document for. But extensions can definitely increase your CPCs, but a lot of times beneficially.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. Where you can do tracking on your site link URL, see how valuable those clicks are for you. If you do see that they're working out for you, it definitely makes sense to pay for them. I've seen that, and they're super valuable.
Here is only about how we can search online. But right now, as we know, we are more interactive on the social media. And social media tools right now, they're using search as well in order to generate inbound links and all this kind of stuff. How can we use those social media search to make it interactive with the original website and also the Google search or the big search or the Yahoo search as well? And also another question after that is, you guys showed us how we can get statistics off the regular search engine, but what about those search engines, which is actually can connect people to the brands that you want it to be more appealing and more outstanding?
So social media is really different. It's a very different game plan than search marketing. They have some similarities, but they're also very different on the other hand. So we use a whole different set of tools and testing tactics for social media than we do for search marketing. So there's a lot of differences there. But the similarities are that often the content that you're developing, again, we talk about a lot about keyword research and things like that. Just knowing what your audience would potentially be looking for and searching for, that you're developing relevant and I guess just content that people would search for, and that you can be found within the social media, different social media platforms for that. The other thing is that a lot of that plays into search marketing, and Google has kind of gone back and forth a little bit about whether they're going to show Facebook and Twitter posts and things like that within their own search engine result pages. They're more prone to showing Google, for example, to showing Google Plus posts, for example. But it's not uncommon to find Facebook posts or pages right prominently within the search engines. So they do. There's a lot of interplay there between those. And then, lastly, I guess the algorithmic factors are. I would say that Google is probably a lot more sophisticated in the sense that it's really trying to anticipate things that you're looking for. That was the whole Hummingbird update. I don't know if you heard about that about a year ago or so, where they really can understand sort of the concepts that you're searching for, even if the keywords aren't necessarily right there within your query. But a lot of those same principles play out in social media too. So there's an algorithmic ranking factor and things like that. So I think a lot of the search marketing principles play out within social media. Yeah. Yes.
So I've been talking to a lot of people since I've been here, and I'm one of these small companies, less than, I have 10 employees. Maybe we get excited when we have 300 or 400, campaign people looking at our stuff,
Sure.
And so my question is maybe something like, if you could tell me what would the top 3 things I should do first in order to jumpstart a program, what would I do?
Yeah, so first I would definitely define, what your product is and who you're trying to target, and figure out try to get in their head and figure out what types of terms that they're searching. I think setting up a Google AdWords account is the first place I would start. And then just kind of making sure that you're writing ads that are relevant and sending them to a landing page that gives them a good experience.
Are you doing paid search now, or
Yeah.
are you bidding on your brand?
No. Right.
It's often
No, we are
an
not.
easy keyword to pick up, and it's fairly inexpensive. Often, search engines will understand that there's a really close tie to your brand terms that you're bidding on in your website. So, I mean, those can be pennies per click, and it really it gives you that top of the page real estate, just in case, especially if you have any competitors that are bidding against you. Really eliminates that factor, but then it almost guarantees that you'll receive one of those clicks, whether it's organically or from the paid search click. But no, I mean, I was in a really similar position a number of years ago when I started that business that I mentioned earlier. For me, it was about developing content on the website, and a lot of that was found a lot of kind of long tail searches that maybe some of the sort of big brands weren't willing to dive into. So the more content that I developed on the site, we really were able to capture a lot of that organic traffic. I think some of the big websites just weren't covering, So that's one thing you can do is whether you have a blog or just a website where you can develop more content on. That's a great way to capture that organic traffic. So yeah, between the paid search campaigns that you're running and developing more content on your website, I mean, those are great places to start. Absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
What's the worst search engine or search mistake you've either done or seen someone else do?
I have a really good story. I was working with someone who went in to change some targeting settings. They were trying to just change some zip codes or something, and ended up deleting all of the target settings. So we were targeting the whole entire globe. They only offer service in a small area, so we spent $96,000 in countries where they don't offer service.
Right. I would like to thank all of you for being present today, as well as our panels. They did a good job, don't you think? One more time.